My whole life has been intertwined with wool ever since I can remember. Well, I'm Debbie Zawinski, and despite the surname, which comes from my husband, I'm Welsh originally, from the land of sheep in the UK. One of my earliest memories is probably learning to knit, sitting on my mother's knee, and I think I was preschool. So knitting has been a big thing for me. It was in, round, through, off. And I knit just like that now. I haven't refined it. I can do the continental stuff, but no, it's exactly the same as I was taught preschool. But as a family, we did a lot of hill walking, so we were out and about a lot, walking in the Brecon Beacons. And my father became really keen on fishing. So then we were away for weekends in mid Wales, and Dad would fish, and I would explore. My brother and I would explore. So the knitting and the walking are big parts of who I am, and I think they are probably some of the most important parts of who I am. I came to Scotland to university to do medicine, but I'm much too woolly to do medicine. and I have had a family of 4 children who are now all grown up. But the common thread through everything is I'm still knitting. I learned to spin. That was another milestone. I mean, obviously, getting married, having children, that was a big milestone. But learning to spin, that was about 30 odd years ago. We had a holiday cottage up in the hills in the Lammermuirs. We used to go to Galashiels, and I bought myself a spin tool and a little bit of fluff. And I taught myself to spin. And I thought, you can only make teddy bear clothes out of this. I can only just spin a little bit. It was all lumpy and everything. But I taught the children to spin. They used half a potato and a twig. So they could all spin on a twig and a potato. And then I discovered there was a spinning class in Haddington, and my mother paid for me to enrol because it was a special present. And she also bought me my first spinning wheel as a present, which was a second-hand Ashford, all the way from New Zealand. I became a serious spinner after that, so that was me sort of, about 32 years ago. I like people to appreciate the importance of these hand skills, because there's a tendency, quite a strong tendency often, to dismiss these things as women's work and devalue them as a result, whereas in actual fact they are, some of the fundamental building blocks of our modern society. I've kind of evolved backwards. A friend of mine said, I learned to make my own spindle out of twigs. This was made in Nepal, bits of bamboo, just tied together. And then I learned to spin on a stick. And then I boiled my spinning stuff down to something that all fitted in a little bag. A fleece, my spinning stick, niddy-noddy, my micro carders, which are really cat brushes, a bit of driftwood, which is a niddy-noddy, to wind balls, tentacle balls. So now I could take my spinning anywhere I wanted, and I became a complete aficionado of knitting socks, so I could take my knitting wherever I wanted, and that was all the foundation for really writing the books. First one was about 10 years ago. That was in the footsteps of sheep. That was a trip round Scotland to visit all the native breeds in their native haunts, and there are 10 native breeds, and gather their fleece from fences and fields and spin them on my stick when I was walking along, ply them and knit them into a pair of Scottish socks. So that was the idea. I would do a journey around Scotland and I would make a pair of Scottish socks to tell the story of the journey around Scotland. If you gather the fleece and spin the fleece and knit it as you travel, then your socks are going to have quite interesting stories to tell. I did think it would be nice to follow it up with a trip around Wales. That would be really on my home turf and visiting some of the places probably I'd walked as a child. And I just about decided, right, I'm off. Next year, I'm going to do it. And then we had the pandemic. I thought, oh, well, won't be this year. So that really was the impetus for writing the second book, because I couldn't go places. But I had a whole body of patterns I had made up and stories that I had written from various travels around the UK and in India, Nepal and Ireland. And I thought, I'll gather these together now. I'll make that into another book. So that's the Stories in Stitches. And I have really and truly knitted my way through my life. And so what I'm knitting is telling the story of what I'm doing. I actually think the world would be a happier place if everybody knitted. I think it would all be calmer and, all have something to do. I wanted to give myself a name. Just sort of thought it up. I was quite shy about being myself. I mean, the first stories I ever wrote, I, scrumpled up and threw in the fire because I found it quite difficult to write about myself. It seemed, show-offy. And a friend did say, well, you're not that feral, really. And I thought, well, I'm more feral than anyone else I know. So it sort of felt as though it had the right ring about it. I've been playing a little bit more with natural dyes. This is the second year I've been doing my Christmas Advent calendar of solar dyeing, which I can explain. I have some examples here. So you take a little handful of fleece, and this is some of my friends wash Shetland, and just pop it in a jar with some natural dye stuff. This is sweet cecily. So what you do over the course of the year, you put up your 24 jars, and then when December arrives, you open one a day, and it's just like the biggest treat because you don't know what you're going to get. The first lot I made my advent calendar hat. I spun them and knitted them up in the order that I gathered them. It's what I've become all about, is the fact that what we make, it tells the stories of who we are and what we do. And that's why this has enormous value, and it's got nothing to do with its aesthetic appeal, because it might not have a great deal of aesthetic appeal. You can take a spindle like this most places, but you can make your spinning even more because it's totally held within your hands. It's a really easy, transportable way of spinning. It's
and wind, letting the stick roll in your hand, build up twist, all about this now, and then tease out from what's in your hand. There's a little bit of herbage there because this is fleece that's gathered off a hill. Then wind that on and off you go again. So this you can do anywhere. This you can do walking the dog. This you can do sitting in a bus. This is, it's as I don't know, as easy as twiddling your